listening to the ancestors. What does it mean? I mean, we just say about an ancient child. What's the idea of an ancient child long gone, being an ancestor? Go to any cemetery and you'll see rows of tiny graves from the last centuries. What does it mean to honor those who went before? What does it mean to listen to lessons of fear and of fearlessness without shame or pride? When I was a little girl, I was very proud of being a descendant from the Mayflower around this time of year, because I'm a New Englander. I'm from an island on the coast of Maine, and so I am a direct descendant, as they say. That was something I was proud of, because we survived. As I grew into teenagehood, I was ashamed of being descendant of the Mayflower. I was ashamed because we had survived. So where do we stand? What does it mean to look back at who we are with neither shame nor pride? What is an ancestor? Who are they? An ancestor is typically considered someone who is further back than 2 generations, so your great-grandparents and further back. But for me, for today, for this season, I want to sort of reframe our ancestors as any that have gone before. Any that are here, that have gone before, all those that have died, whether recent, like Elijah coming, or long, long, long time ago. The day was past. His ancestors, perhaps. I'm saying this because I believe it's important to dive deeper, because we're in trouble and our world here needs all the help we can get. From the personal, the psychosocial, the physical, the spiritual, each one of us is a multiplicity of ancestral webs weaving a fabric around us that creates our present moment. Most of us are familiar with the concept of blood ancestors. Those are the names that pop up in your DNA family searches. That's my grandmother telling me I'm a direct descendant from the people on the Mayflower. Also the people who owned the Mayflower, which was a slave ship before it was a wine ship. Before they owned it, she would always say, as if that cleansed the hull. But your genealogy hobbies, we've heard about those. We had those. We play around in that field. The sacred idea of the river of blood, and that's what they call it, which kind of creeped me out when I first read that. Have you heard of the sacred river of blood? Yeah, you. But when you think about it, it's true. The blood that is pumping through your veins is the same composition of bits and pieces of the blood that goes all the way back. All the way back. So indeed, it is sacred. But that idea also gave us the federal blood quantum. There's a design which designated, you know what the blood quantum is? Blood quantum laws. It decided who was indigenous, a real member of a real tribe, and who wasn't. And originally it was a very clear way of preventing vanquished tribes from rebuilding. I'm going to say that again. The federal government decided who could be a member of a nation, a sovereign nation, and who could not be a member of a sovereign nation. Now, when you put it that way, it sounds different, because deciding what's a member of a sovereign nation based on blood. But it became really popular in the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. Are you familiar with this one? Yeah, kind of horrid. Ethnic genocide. It wasn't just popular in Germany at that time. It was everywhere. But we have to go back to 1662 in Virginia to the one-drop rule, or hypodescent. It was called, as it was called, hypodescent, which is a weird word to come in, because it's like one tiny drop. It became clear, it came into that place, it became clear that many slave-owning men were raping their enslaved women and producing offspring. And something had to be done to prevent those children from inheriting. We needed that law to prevent inheritance, any inheritance laws. And you might think that, well, that was 1662. Then we had revolution, right? Yeah, and then we had still slavery, and then we went through the Civil War, right? And in 1970, Louisiana codified a law that anyone who had at least 1/32 African American blood was to be considered black. And in 1983, their state Supreme Court upheld the law. It never got to our Supreme Court of land because there was just too much public backlash all across the country. And so that very same year they rescinded that law. So who are our ancestors really? I mean, now that we can do ancestry testing that can tease everything out, it's gotten even more confusing because we don't inherit our genes 50% from dad, 50% from mom. We kind of like to think of it sort of like that. It's kind of like that, but it's really not like that. As anybody who's had anything to do with any dog breeder, they can tell you, it's just not that easy, which is also why wolf hybrids are a really, really bad idea. Looks like a wolf, acts like a dog. Looks like a dog, acts like a wolf. That has to do with predatory drives. Those things are pre-wired. They can be turned on, they can't be turned off. Or any of you have siblings? How many have siblings? And all of you are exactly like your brothers and sisters. Oh wait, I said brothers and sisters. They're automatically not exactly like, right? So that 50-50 thing is not actually accurate. So you could have two daughters of self-identified African-American parents. And when they do their DNA, one daughter comes up 40% African-American and the other daughter comes up 20% African-American. That's how it works. Or soup. Yeah, race. Not a thing. Except it is. It's a tool to oppress. So how much indigenous DNA does your Ancestry.com profile show you have? We also have family ancestors who are not blood. And their family, those in-laws on all sides going way back, or those adopted parents, they left permanent imprints on you and your family tree going all the way back. Our genetic alleles are turned on by more than just our genetic coding. It's why so many adopted parents and step-parents carry so much weight and power in their chosen children. My adoptive father, my Italian-American step-grandmother are my most immediate examples, and they are now my child's ancestors in real and meaningful ways. I mean, not just the foods we eat in holidays, which is also really awesome, because, you know, pie, child, future. Because of how I act, and how I see the world, and how I see the world in a slightly different way, and that has shaped everything about who I am. We have cultural ancestors that we carry with us from different regions, nationalities, ethnicities. Mrs. Brandon, for example, is nobody I ever knew. Nobody my mother ever knew. And we make her nut pie every Thanksgiving. Historic ancestors are also often dismissed, and yet in many ways have power beyond the stories we ascribe to them. From George Washington to George Washington Carver, to the countless voices of unnamed women who have shaped our world. We have essential environmental ancestors. You go back 20 generations and you will find you have 4 million blood ancestors. 20 generations, you go to 4 million. Go back 30 generations and it's over 4 trillion. We haven't even gotten back to the time of Jesus. What might it look like if Jesus was an ancestor? What might that do? It's a thought. 99.9% of our genetic sequencing is identical to every other human on the planet. We are all siblings. Not in this kind of, oh, we're all siblings. We're literally all siblings. We are the success story of millions of years of evolution, and it's really time we started acting like it. 99.6 we share with bonobos. 90% with your house cat.
All right, good.
70% with sea sponges. I love that one. And 15% with mustard. Which gives you another view into the parable of Matthew, Luke, and Mark. How will we liken the kingdom of God? It is like a grain of mustard seed, which when it is sown on the earth, though it is less than all the seeds that are on the earth, yet when it is sown, it grows up and becomes greater than all herbs, and puts out great branches, so that the birds of the sky can lodge under its shadow. All of you are 50% mustard. How cool is that? We also have spiritual ancestors, both individually and collectively, as part of all of our faith traditions. So, who are yours? That's a question. We all have them. We don't pay any attention to our spiritual ancestors. We don't even know who they are. I want you to go and really start discovering and thinking about, who might my spiritual ancestors be? And how do they influence me today? What influences do they have that you are unaware of? How did they change the world? What gifts did their enlightenment bring? And how might you use that gift today? What if Jesus was your ancestor? What if Buddha was your ancestor? Unitarian Universalists have far more than they're readily aware of. I mean, we talk a lot about Francis David. Not if you know who Francis David is. Please, okay. Francis David is responsible for the Edict of Torda? T-O-R-D-A. That was 1568, right? And you're going to look him up now. Discover what he did. I'm not going to go. That's your homework. Joseph Priestley. Okay, we've got more nods. He started the first organized Unitarian church in the U.S. That was 1796. Abigail Adams. She was a Unitarian. Abigail Adams to Susan B. Anthony. From these people shaped our world. They are also your spiritual ancestors in this particular chosen faith. And like many of you, they may have been born into other faith traditions first. But we also have P.T. Barnum, who some can consider so infected with the evils of narcissism, racism, ableism, misogyny, that we are loath to claim him. I can remember learning, I'm like, P.T. Barnum? No! Really? And the complicated father of our country, Thomas Jefferson, who kept an enslaved woman named Sally Hemings in a windowless bedchamber in his home in Monticello, fathering many children. The story isn't as simple as he fell in love with a slave and took her off. But I want you to know our ancestors are all here in all ways. Our ancestors are all here in all ways. So what does it mean to listen to lessons of fear and fearlessness without shame or pride? What does it mean to know your ancestors? I mean, it's hard work, but it really is the work of the moment. I mean, I think that the past is never past. And I think part of the reason we've got this wellspring of what can only be labeled as evil is because we have not taken those course corrections all along the way. You deny them. And you know, if you start walking, and you go a little off track, if you go right back, that's like 2 steps. It's like if I go a little far this way, I can go back a little far this way. But if I keep walking this way, suddenly I'm making a piece of pie, there's a theme here, a piece of pie that's going to take me so far off of where I need to be that course correction is going to be hard. And that's what's happening. Because we have denied and not course corrected for the sins of our ancestors. And we've also not lauded the great works that our ancestors have done. Many traditions tell you that you need to honor them. How do you start honoring them? Begin by naming them. So we're going to do that right now. So you have a little practice, so you can take this back out. You're going to start with your name. So everyone's going to say it at the same time, so you won't be scared. So, Your birth name, the name you were born with. My name was Elizabeth Ann Ensminger. Everybody at once. Okay, now I want you to say thank you.
Thank you.
Now I want you to name your mother's name. Edith Lorraine Pierce Anderson Ensminger.
Sarah Catherine
And your father's name. Alexander Ensminger. That's the first step. First step. And then you name your grandparents. And then you go back as far as you can. It's a simple little ritual that connects you and reminds you that you are here. You are here as a survivor of untold events. You can use your immediate family lineage. Use George Breland Rudolph, my second father. Name them and bring them into the room as well. Name your pets. Name animals that had big impact on you. Bridget, she was a horse. Still one of my ancestors, because she's now gone and was a member of the family. Calling names is and always has been powerful. Look at the story of Rapunzel. If you can't look at a sacred text, look at how in the Bible names are being changed so often. Names are powerful. Connecting with the ancestors has sadly been misunderstood as evil. It's been condemned as sorcery, vilified as witchcraft, now romanticized as witchcraft as well, which both are neither helpful to the pagan communities. But the scriptures are about forbidding the calling of evil spirits or dark spirits for personal, egoic gain. Things that would do harm to someone else or for your own ego. They're not about not calling for communal healing. In fact, all through our sacred texts, we have examples of calling on for accepting help. Please, please. But perhaps the most damaging idea to our honoring has been the idea of American exceptionalism. Rugged individualism and the myth of the self-made man. That myth and our persistent reinforcement of it has caused us to be fully isolated from all of the categories of ancestral fellowship. They're selling dogmas that only serve the powerful, twistings of scriptures and ideas that this world is a false illusion and therefore meaningless, or that it is a world suffering and that it is ours to accept suffering, or that it is temporary and therefore disposable while we're on our way to heaven. None of these are accurate to the actual religions that they purport. None of these texts provide a way to sustain homes. And all faith traditions have means of connections to our ancestors, all of them. From the Wiccan sharing of cakes and ale to the Christian rite of communion, from the election of saints to the lineage attunements and transmission of Buddhism, Hinduism, and many indigenous faiths. The Jewish services that begin with, and so we speak the words of our ancestors, and to what they have, which is called ethical will, which is when I am dying, I will write down the words that I need to pass on, that I want to pass on in my family. It can be written down, it can be a conversation. Words, naming, acts, these keep the ancestors alive. They speak and they sing chants that in some cases are 2,000 years old. One tune, one chant, sung in common connection to all who have sung it in the past. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. So fear not the admonitions against ancestor worship you may have been fed as a child. You were also raised in a culture that told you to honor your mother and your father. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean denying them. It doesn't mean saying apologetic for them. It means honoring what they did and taking the next step. Sometimes that's raising up. Sometimes that's a course correction. You might set up an altar. Many traditions do this. I'm standing behind one right now. You might use some pictures of loved ones. Some cultures keep ashes of loved ones in small jars and travel with them in their homes. And I've seen this impulse carried over in a secular fashion in homes I've gone into with the ashes of husbands, in urns and entryways, and the ashes of pets placed over mantelpieces? What is an altar? What is an altar? It's a space carved out of a place that holds special items that call us back to our best selves. Very simple. It's a space that you carve out of your space, and you put something on it that calls you back to your best self and connects you to that which is greater than you are. Perhaps yours is your bathroom mirror. Could be. It's surrounded by items of care, faces of the ancestors every time you look in. You didn't think of that? Think of this. Every time you look in a mirror, your ancestors are looking right back out at you.
Yeah.
All our ancestors want us to understand we are all here in all ways. Didn't anybody ever tell you, you have your mother's nose, you have your father's eyes? Nose wrong. Oh, people used to tell me and my adopted father how much we looked alike all the time. I love that. I love that because it's true. We did. We're family, even though we had different hair, and different eyes, and different nose. Right? Yeah. You might honor your grandfolks by singing a hymn or a lullaby. A lullaby that is so old that the octave is lost in the sands of time. Every woman in my family does Why We Love. Why we love, love. What is that? But I can sing Why We Love, and that can connect me to everybody that I can remember, and all those paths that held a baby at one point, or a puppy, or a kitten. And in one memorable case, I remember a harbor seal. Or a favorite meal, or reread your favorite Bible story, or a fairy tale, or the preamble to the Constitution. The old ones tell us again and again, we are all here in all ways. We are always here. And be mindful of the shadows. Because they're there and they're sharp. I was in a women's circle a while ago when a woman stood up and declared, we are all the children of raped women. And that's true. We are all the children of raped women. Even if you were conceived in a union, committed partnership, in love and intention, you don't have to go back many generations. Remember, 30 generations, how many million? We're all the children of raped women. But if that is true, we're also all the children of rapists. And that's really hard to sit with. And it can be really triggering for a lot of us. What does it mean to have to sit with both the pride and the shame and step outside of that to help heal our world? We are both sides of history, and until we come to terms with those dark shadows and not apologize for them, just observe them, listen to them, and in the future do no harm. We cannot move past them. They will only fester. And I really truly believe we're seeing that infection writ large in our world right now. And I believe that each and every one of us is called to heal our part of that world. Shamans and energy healers will tell you that healing works in all directions, past, present, and future. So maybe place grandmother's sponge on her altar. I'm going to. Along with some grandfather mustard. Perhaps a picture of a loved one. Burn some herbs. Let your cat walk a closet with impunity unless you have candles. Ask for that which heals. Ask and look and lead for those that have gone before on paths that you are about to walk. Help. What did they do? What could I do? What would Jesus do? What would Buddha do? What would my granny do? Add more butter. No matter how intimate and uniquely personal your problems may seem, you have more help in the fabric of ancestors that surround you than you have problems. I'm going to read that again, because actually I went big, I'm going to take it really small. No matter how intimate or uniquely personal your problems may seem, you have more help in the fabric of your ancestors than you have problems. You have millions, billions of ancestors. Which means we have a chorus of helpers in our DNA. We have a chorus of helpers in our DNA, in our cultural heritage, and in the unified field of all existence. The multiverse is ready to help out. Ready and waiting, but we have to ask, and we have to be able to receive. It's an honor to be asked. How many of you heard that? It's an honor just to be asked. It's an honor just to be nominated. It's an honor. It really is. But it's an honor to be asked for that which you long to receive. Remember, we are that which has survived. We are that. We are the pinnacle of the evolution of your particular line. That's how fabulous you are. You are that kind of fabulous. So what does it mean to think of oneself as an ancestor? Because that's obviously the next step, right? Right?
Right.
Yeah, y'all are ancestors in waiting. Stay here for a moment. But your ancestors in waiting. And I want to take Jane Goodall's words to heart. Quote, every individual matters. Every individual has a role to play. Every individual makes a difference. The greatest danger to our future is apathy. So you have a role to play. What does it mean to be a future ancestor? I think it means to see the past, our past, your past, my past, with clear eyes, undefended. It means not to look away from our troubles, be they personal, intimate, cultural, national, or global. It means taking one step, your step, in the direction of compassion and care, amplified by our feathered angels, energized by the healing of our ancestors, however you hold them, whether it's story or spirit, honoring our ancestors, healing our ancestors, becoming ancestors. This all means saying, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Again and again in many directions. It means being present and listening and saying, I feel your sorrow. I forgive you. Thank you. I love you. Over and over again. No matter whether you build an altar on your heart, open the altar of your heart. You are the success story of millions of years of life longing for itself. You are stardust and the clay of possibility. You are precious drops. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.